Welcome back to another one of our College Confidential segments. I'm Jimmy Birch.
I'm Carlos Mendez.
And we're going to talk about what's hot, what's happening in the college football world, and particularly in our own backyard. And we've got another big one coming to our backyard, Carlos. Fort Worth, Texas, the only top 10 team in the state of Texas, those Fighting Frogs hosting Texas Tech. TCU's the highest ranked team in the Lone Star State. Are they the best team in the Lone Star State?
I can't think of somebody else who might step on their toes if
Baylor might argue, but I think they lost some credibility last week.
Yeah, and TCU was better for 3/4 of that game, which is
at least
a big percentage of that game. Right. In fact, Gary Patterson was joking this week. He said we were asking him about the defense. He said, "Hey, a lot of coaches I've been talking to were telling me, hey, you guys played just fine defense, until about the last 11 minutes."
Yeah, they did.
So I don't think TCU has anything to apologize for as far as making a case against Baylor. But they're left with the rest of the season, and it's another big game, which is an interesting choice of words with TCU because in the conferences they've been in for the past 10 years, big games came along about every 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, once they had 3 of them, they were done. And this will be 4 in a row.
This will be 4 in a row, and another one is coming up next week, and then another one the week after that. But after these 6 weeks, if they can manage to pack another 2 or 3 wins in a row under their belt, they've got a case at not only being the best team in Texas, but being the best team in the Big 12.
They do. I mean, right now, TCU, Kansas State, November 8th in Fort Worth, I think has maybe a little more meat on the bone for the conference championship than November 8th OU Baylor up in Norman, which is the game everybody had circled. Everybody kind of circled November 8th as the day the Big 12 will be won. It just may happen about 200 miles south of there. So.
Yeah, the Big 12, well, it's certainly deeper than we thought, but I know that the deepest division, the deepest conference in the country has got to be the SEC West, and we were trying to think about how many of those teams might be in these first CFP rankings on Tuesday.
Yeah, you got 4 teams that are in the top 5 of the AP poll. It could be all of them may carry forward into some rankings. Nobody's ever had 4 of the top 5 from the same conference, let alone the same division, in the same AP poll until this week. Now, that's not going to carry over, obviously. Ole Miss still plays Mississippi State. Auburn, Alabama will play. Both play on November 29th. And then there'll be one more meeting between other teams there. So there's a lot of chances for head-to-head losses, but I expect 2 of them to be still standing and be very much accounted for in that that final bracket, or at least be strongly talked about. My hunch is still kind of Ole Miss and Auburn because they get Ole Miss and Alabama. I've got the 2 that get the home games. It's at Alabama this year, the Iron Bowl. So that I just think they're all that close that the home field's going to make that much difference. And the home field in the Big 12 makes a lot of difference. You got Baylor, you got TCU, you got K-State. You look at this ESPN metric that has the latest percentage chances. TCU and Baylor are at 31%, and that's the best anybody has. K-State has 18. You go on down. Who's really in the driver's seat at this point in your estimation?
I think it's still Baylor in the driver's seat because they've got that win over TCU, and they've got K-State coming to their place. Those are 2 big advantages to have in hand. And if Baylor can play the way they played at the start of the year, last week notwithstanding, I still think they can win out the conference, and they've got the head-to-head against TCU. I'd give them the best percentage. In fact, I'd give them a 50-50 shot at it, but TCU's got a strong position too. All they need is Baylor to slip up one more time or another surprise somewhere along the way. TCU's perfectly capable of winning the rest of these games, but it's much easier for me to sit here and say it than for them to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12 could be the huge knot of teams with 2 losses, and we're looking at tiebreakers till late into the night and deep into the morning, the next day. But, from just based on the eyeball test, I'm going to say right now K-State looks best to me, although they have the toughest remaining schedule. Who do you see? Who is your best with the eyeball test in the Big 12? TCU?
You know,
Someone else?
TCU from an all-around standpoint, because the
Yeah.
offense has just elevated itself so much. The defense is the defense, same as it's ever been, but this offense has surpassed even Gary Patterson's expectations. He talked about that this week. He said there's no way that he would have let himself think of it being at this level right now. It's really more than a lot of us could have fathomed for that offense.
Yeah, and the team they're playing on Saturday, kind of the flip side of that, Texas Tech is a team I thought would be kind of doing what TCU's doing. And they've kind of flipped roles. I thought Tech would be a top 25 team this year, and they've fallen well short, and you'll see why Saturday. Their defense has not stepped up. There's inconsistency on offense, but capability. Yet they're still real dangerous. They got some explosive players. It's interesting, but I don't see that team going to a bowl. Do you think the Raiders can be bowl eligible this year?
Well, they'd have to win 3 more games, and who do they have left?
They'd have to beat a lot of ranked
Yeah,
people. It's going to be hard for them to do.
Yeah, they do get some of these games at home, and we've seen very strange things happen up in that part of the world. But
Yep.
I don't know who these 3 victories are going to come from, in the rest of the schedule for them.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough road for the Raiders, and it's going to be an interesting game Saturday in Amon Carter, and we appreciate you dialing us up this week and hope you have a good one. Take care.